Welcome to this edition of Global Switzerland. Shaping the future, that was the theme of this year's Global Shapers Annual Summit 2018, organized by the World Economic Forum in Geneva at the beginning of September. Challenging critical thinking, creating debates and promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, well, that sounds really good on paper. But how to create real impact on the ground? Let's find out more. Akil, Nathan, you seem to be the right person to answer this question. So you are engaged with a project, a campaign called Free Interrail. Tell me what it is exactly.
The Free Interrail campaign is basically a campaign by the people of the European Union for every single European that when he turns 18 years old when they turn 18, we want that everyone gets a voucher for 3 weeks to travel across the European Union, which basically has the goal that we get to know each other better and really form a European identity.
This sounds very idealistic somehow, right? You can go and see the beautiful European continent. It should foster the European identity, but clearly there must be a lot of challenges as well.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of challenges. The campaign has been going on for a couple of years, and of course the first question is always, why is it that you want something that costs so much in the beginning? So we always think about the money first. But when we actually think about money and then what it actually brings about, it brings about long-lasting peace. Because if people know each other and are really friends all over the continent, have seen each other, then they will never are very likely to shoot at each other again. So I think that is a big challenge to convince other people that when they think about first about the money, not about actually the goal that is behind the initiative.
But let's talk about the money, because it's not cheap if you offer so many free interrail tickets to the young people on this continent. So where does the funding come from?
So the idea is that it's actually a campaign funded by the European Union, because after all, the European Union has been and hopefully will be the most successful peace project around the world. And we want to.
Are you still convinced about that?
I'm 100% convinced, and I think, but to make sure that it will stay like that, we need to do something for the youth that they will always remember that they are European and not a member of one particular country only and see each other as enemies or whatever, but actually see each other more as friends and really have a common identity that we feel European.
So what kind of a backlash has Brexit been for you?
Well, it has been quite a kind of mind shift for, I guess, the whole European society. I think it is a big challenge to think about it. But then again, there we see the young population has voted in a majority against Brexit. And what we actually have seen, the people who haven't even been able to vote yet, they actually are even more against it. So they're actually our future. They're the future of the European Union about this peace project. And if we can help them create this project even more with their friends all over Europe, then I think we'll have a very positive future ahead of us.
How important is Switzerland for you and your campaign, and how do you put the country on the map of the young travelers?
I think Switzerland is super important. We've seen actually Switzerland being part of the Erasmus program, then actually stepping out of the Erasmus program. And I think it's really a big shame if they wouldn't be part of such a large European context, because Switzerland is more or less in the heart of Europe. And I think it's necessary that people from every corner of the continent come to Switzerland, experience Switzerland, and the Swiss people also go abroad and see their neighboring countries and basically their friends all over Europe. So I think it's really crucial that every single country, being a member of the European Union or not, are a part of it.
Now, a key feature of many young startup projects and campaigns is that you don't need a lot of people. How many are you? How many colleagues do you have?
So the Free Interrail campaign has basically been led by two people, two really engaged activists and a lot of ambassadors around. And the ambassadors, I'm one of these ambassadors. We're basically in charge of creating the movement in their local cities, in their local communities. But actually, eventually, I think every single person of us is responsible for the success of a program like that. So I try to convince people on the streets, for example, on pro-European rallies, that they step up as their members of the parliament, the members of the European Parliament, to step up their game for us the people.
Do you think that this kind of volunteer work on the street is still working?
I think it's really active and really working. If we look at the statistics, I know it, for example, for my home country where I was born, in Germany, there are more than 2/3 of the whole population is actively engaged every single year in voluntary work, and they do that aside of their regular jobs. So I think it is active, and I think it's actually one of the key features in Europe.
Do you think that it's even more useful and efficient and powerful than social media still?
I think it's probably, you can compare that, but I think you need, in the modern era, in the age of the fourth industrial revolution, you need to look at both. Of course, you need to use smart technology, such as social media, but you also need to really get on the ground and talk to people, and people need to talk to each other. I think there's a danger of people just talking about each other than actually meeting each other and talking to each other. And I think that's also one part of the program, that we actually get people to meet and not only meet over social media.
You like to call yourself an activist, Ekel, Nathan. So why do you want to be an activist, and how powerful can you be? How does the business community and companies and the European Parliament in Brussels listen to you?
Yeah, I think it's, so first I was not calling myself an activist, but after doing a few projects, people started calling me an activist, and I was like, okay, I can use that term because actually I'm active and I want people to get active, and that's for me how I define to be an activist. I think it's actually a really powerful tool in this new age, that you can use the smart technologies that I used before, social media, to engage people. So for example, via social media I was able to reach more than 500,000 people in 1 week via my Facebook page, for example, to get on the ground and start doing campaigns, signing up for petitions, going on the streets, or telling the members of the parliament what they should vote for. And I think that we, as the people and the society, have a lot of power, which we very often tend to forget. And I think if some people tap into that, then we can be really active and really powerful and achieve really big things, like the Free Interrail campaign, which was just voted in favor of by the European Parliament and is called now Discover EU as a pilot project.
Each year, the forum invites 400 change makers, innovators, activists and entrepreneurs under the age of 30 to participate in the summit. One of them is this young lady I'm going to talk to right now. We are now joined by Doreen Kessie. She's the Chief Business Officer at Ubongo. Ubongo means brain in Swahili,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
Why brain?
Because we're building brains, and we believe change starts in the brain, in the brain of our kids. And so we at Ubongo create edutainment content for learners in Africa. And so we use educational cartoons to teach kids a variety of things. We teach math, we teach science, we teach them about English as a second language, social-emotional skills, as well as life skills.
And you are really shaping the future of these children in Africa, because right now you have about 7 million users across 31 countries in Africa already.
Absolutely,
Tell me about the expansion plans you have.
So we started off with one show. Now we have 2 shows. And then we only started with English and Swahili out of Tanzania. And now we've grown to French and Kinyarwanda, and we're doing more African languages. So the goal is to transform learning by using this content, by opening the door to digital learning through our content, and reaching millions of kids in Africa.
And how do you hope to change and transform the education sector across the continent?
So for us, it's about top quality education. A lot of kids are in school, but they're not learning anything. So the question is, how can we leverage existing technologies, mass media technologies such as TV, mobile and radio, to bring them that top quality education, because they are not getting it in the classroom. So this is the way for us to fill that gap.
And one challenge is, and I've just been to Eastern Africa, the lack of access to the internet and Wi-Fi services.
Absolutely.
How do you overcome these hurdles?
Yeah, and that's why we use TV, because still it's quite low penetration, but at least 50% of the population, at least in Tanzania, have access to TV, and then of households, and then we have radio access is up to over 90%. And yeah, internet is still quite expensive, and not so many people have access to it. So we have to get creative about how what kind of technologies we're using, because if we were to use computers or internet, then it would be very difficult to reach as many people.
The first president of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, once famously said that you don't have to give people fish, but you have to teach them how to fish. Mm-hmm. So how does this apply to your business? Yeah, so
that's exactly how we think, because we realize a lot of the issues we are talking about, even here at the World Economic Forum, are as a result of poor education. You know, when we're talking about healthcare, infrastructure, unemployment, like the education has been poor for so long that it's not producing results. So I think we need to say, are we really equipping our kids with the skills and everything that they need to be successful in the 21st century and beyond? Because I don't think so. So I'm really interested in we as Ubongo, we are interested in looking at, how are kids learning? What are some of the skills that they need? We're talking about critical thinking, problem-solving skills. Do these schools actually equip them with that? Because that's not what we are seeing in the workforce. Like, it's not really producing people with these skills. So it's a huge concern, and we're trying to fill that gap through this fun learning, through cartoons, educational cartoons, so we can start to bridge the gap.
Asante sana.
Asante.
The event here brings together young leaders and visionaries from all walks of life. But what they have in common is a desire to catalyze positive change. Let's take matters home for a minute, and one Swiss global shaper is Josh Levent. He's the co-founder of Mutu. Josh, so Mutu means transformation in Finnish.
That's right.
I think, why?
We are seeing the digital transformation of the economy kind of proceeding at a really rapid pace, and we want to help companies, our clients, and our partners to succeed in mastering that transformation.
So Mutu is, on the one hand side, a technology consultancy based in Bern, very special in the
That's
capital,
right.
Not in Zurich, not in Geneva, but in Bern. And also you help Swiss companies master this digital transformation. So what kind of change are you hoping to create?
The way I think about it, it has to be a holistic change. It has to integrate all aspects of business. And I have a unique background in technology, business, and design. I started out at the age of 12 coding on my parents' computer, and I did my bachelor's degree in business and did my master's degree in design. So I have all three perspectives, and I try to integrate those when I work with clients so that we can try to solve a more complex problem than just one aspect of what companies are facing.
So together with your clients and the companies that you're advising and consulting for, what kind of change are you hoping to bring? How do you hope to shape the future?
The way I see it, we're facing many challenges, and we hear it a lot that my generation is the last generation that can solve the challenges that we've inherited.
The last generation. That sounds very pessimistic.
Yeah.
So afterwards we have the end of the world, or what?
I hope not, because it's looking really difficult to solve some of the biggest challenges. But I think there's also reason to hope, and I've been thinking about kind of seeing the future in 3 time periods. So I've been thinking about, in the next 10 years, the digital transformation is going to have the biggest impact. The next 100 years, it's going to be climate change. And then I'm hoping that in the next 1,000 years, we can become a multi-planetary species and actually, make ourselves not so dependent on Earth. And we can maybe in the future make Earth like a nature reserve and actually keep the industry in space and not pollute our planet.
Is that your big dream?
That's my big dream, yeah.
So you're also a TEDx speaker, a advisor, mentor, and coach. How do you inspire young people and the millennials and Generation Y and your friends and colleagues?
That's a good question. I think there's this interesting generational shift happening where my generation is becoming much more comfortable with our emotions and our vulnerability, and the power I see in my generation is that we are in touch with deeper parts of ourselves. And that was really challenging for me, actually, because I didn't grow up being very emotionally intelligent, and I had to face a significant setback before I realized actually what it was and how I could cultivate it. And now when I work with young people, I try to make sure that we talk about our failures and our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses, and that we can actually be quite open about it. So often when I get in front of a group of young people, I tell them, look, I'm scared, actually, I'm nervous to be here. And it's so interesting how that opens the doors to better conversations.
We talk about shaping the future, but what would be the top trend of disruption that you think could break the future?
I definitely see machine learning as being the risk that we face. We don't know, and I think there's a lot of different perspectives on this, and I don't think that tomorrow all our computers are going to wake up and try to destroy us. I don't think that's what we should be afraid of. I think, but what we can legitimately be afraid of is when we build better and better systems that automatically make decisions. What are the values that are built into those systems? And this is now happening with robotic warfare. The question is really important, actually. What kind of ethics do we build into the systems? But then also with autonomous driving, what ethics are built into the autonomous cars? And as these systems become more and more intelligent and can cover more and more aspects of our day-to-day work, we need to really make sure that our values are represented by those systems.
Talking about impact, do you think that as a young startup entrepreneur, you can actually create and trigger a bigger change and impact than if you were working for a big multinational company?
Of course, I have friends and colleagues who work for multinationals and who feel like they are able to make an impact. And of course, there's benefits of being in those places because you have a big support network, you have mentors. And that's something sometimes I find difficult. How do I find the mentors and the support network that I need to excel? But at the end of the day, I love to have the freedom every day to choose what I work on and to put my passion and energy onto those things that matter the most to me. And if that changes, and it does often actually, then I can reorient myself and do something else. And that's a huge privilege as well to have that freedom.